pallets. We have wet ones, dry ones, and whatever this abomination is. Which one is best for you, and are you using them properly? We answer all that and more today. Hello fellow Hunters of the Blue, and welcome to my channel, and also welcome to Technique 101, a series of videos where we focus on those topics that, for hobbies like me, seem second nature, but we sometimes forget new people arrive to this amazing hobby all the time, and it's very natural to have loads of questions. Learning new things is very exciting, and I'm here to try and help you out in this new journey. In this video I will explore in depth the topic of pallets, from the dry varieties to their more moist cousins. How to make your own, how to use them properly, and a ton of tips and tricks that, even if you are an experienced painter, you may not know. So stay tuned, grab a cup of your favorite beverage, and let's get cracking! Whether we like it or not, pallets are a must-have item for a hobbyist, unless you want to end up with miniatures that look like this, and brushes that look like this. We need some sort of support to put our paint on and thin it down to the desired consistency. In the Technique 101 playlist, you will find a video on thinning paint that you can watch afterwards. Views for the views god! That support can be something as simple and cheap as a piece of aluminum foil. In fact, that's what I used as a child when I started painting. This is the cheapest material to use as a palette, and a really good one. Aluminum foil usually has two sides, one that is very shiny and one that is more matte. I very much prefer to use the matter side, as it will allow you to see the paint better. Being metal is completely waterproof and it's very strong, so you won't rip it even if you are very aggressive. Once you are done or the piece of foil is full of dried paint, you can simply throw it in the bin and take a new one. If you are starting out and don't have a lot of money, this is the best option. Never just take paint out of the pot directly to paint a model. I know it's tempting, but it's better if you develop good practices now that you are learning. First of all, the paint will be too thick, leaving texture on the model, and secondly, you run the risk of destroying your brush in the process. Even for a quick touch-up, it's better if you put the paint on the palette, thin it down appropriately, and then paint your model. If you like your palettes dry, there are a lot of more options for you. Anything that is not porous can be used as a palette for acrylic paints. Let your imagination fly. But there are some traditional options like ceramic tile, or even specifically made ones that you can buy. These are available on art stores or online and are quite cheap and very nice. They are a stack of papers. One side of each paper has a plastic coating. This is where you put your paint, and as you can see, once you are done, you can simply tear the paper off the stack and start with a fresh one. Very convenient, and the white background is nicer to work with than the aluminum foil, but obviously they are more expensive. Still a great option in my opinion, especially if you prefer a larger surface to work with like I do. Recently, Games Workshop released this thing. This is a rubber palette, and in theory it's amazing. Being rubber, paint just peels off the surface and it's so cute, but you only need to use it for a couple of days to see why this product is unusable. Dust. This material is a magnet for dust, and it just won't go off. This will result in small pieces of dust in your paint and thus stuck to the surface of your model. Avoid this, please. Before we move to the more moist part of this video, I need to at least mention what I consider a hybrid between a dry and a wet palette, a cold palette. The idea is to use a ceramic tile over some ice blocks to create condensation on the tile and extend the drying time of the paint. It's something I haven't used myself, but I will leave a link in the description to the video I'm showing here by Dr. Faust if you want to check it out. I love my pile of shame. I want to make it so big that it can crush me. Let me get out this precarious kid at the bottom of the pile. Hello, I'm Juan Hidalgo, and you might know me from other public service announcements like leaking paint, a one-way trip to Flavortown, and using a hobby blade. Make sure you always cut to wash yourself. Hoarding model kits is not only a bad financial decision, but it can also be deadly. Don't worry, Miniswap is here to help. Miniswap is a new marketplace for miniatures that I'm really excited about. You can buy and sell your pile of shame, but also painted models, ideal for those who want to do commission painting. Their database is amazing. You can search for the model kit or specific units or characters, allowing you to search for the exact miniature you're looking for. This also enables you to create alerts for listings that match your specific search criteria, so you don't miss a kit you're looking for. Additionally, they've introduced a lot listing feature for those who want to sell an entire army or multiple units at once. Do you need more reasons to check Miniswap out? Well, if you join using my link in the description, you will get 0% commission fees on your first 90 days as a seller. Yes, a 0%. And also free shipping on your first order. New features such as an image-based mini identification tool are on the way, and also very soon international shipping. Sign up using the link below and let's get swapping. I think now is finally time to have a look at what's the most recommended type of palette for miniature painting, and probably the most extended one, a wet palette. A wet palette is an incredible tool that will allow you to extend the working time of paints for as long as you want. That is a lie, by the way, but we will get to that later. All wet palettes are essentially made up of three components. 1. A waterproof container, ideally with a lid. 2. Some kind of material that's good at absorbing and holding water, usually a sponge, but even a folded piece of kitchen roll will work. And finally 3. Some porous membrane that will allow moisture through. One of the biggest complaints about wet palettes is that they are expensive to buy, and that is true. If you want to get a good commercial wet palette, they can be pricey, especially compared to a piece of aluminium foil. But the truth is, you can make your own wet palette for almost no money at all. Let's go through the list of materials we need as we talked earlier. 1. Our container. This is a cheap Tupperware that I had at home. 2. Our absorbing material. This is just some kitchen roll. 3. Our porous membrane. This is wax-free baking paper. Building it is very simple. We take our container, we put our absorbing material in. I chose to use the cheapest and easiest to find, but you can use any kind of kitchen sponge or base or sponge cloth for this. Then we wet this very well. You don't want to have your absorbing material floating in there, but you want a lot of water. I usually like having water almost half the height of my absorbent material. Then we place our baking paper on top. It's very important we cut our baking paper smaller than our container, because as this absorbs water, it's going to grow and expand, and we don't want ripples or parts of this paper not in contact with the absorbent material. And that's it. We now have a fully functional wet palette we can use, and the cost was literally nothing. I had all of these things in my kitchen already. This is not perfect, but it will serve you well. The main advantage of making your own palette is that it's cheap as anything can be, and you can make it the size and shape you want, provided you find an appropriate container. If you are considering buying a commercial option but I'm not sure if a wet palette is for you, make one and try it out. You have nothing to lose. Speaking of commercial options, we are now literally inundated with options. Here we have just some examples. Not very long ago, there was only one viable option made by Redgrass Games, but now Army Painter has one, AK has one, Vallejo has one, and even smaller contenders like Mind War Games are making one now. And this is just what I already had in my workshop. There are many more, but in essence they are all the same. Inside the box you will find a plastic container with a lid. Sometimes they will have a rubber seal inside, usually 2 sponges and a pack of palette paper pre-cut to the ideal size of your palette. Let's get one ready. The obvious advantage of a commercial option is you get out of the box a product that is designed to work well and that has all you need inside. They are super convenient and my preferred option. But consider this, I don't pay for them and this is my job, so I can justify a lot of tools that most people can't. It's also important to point out that we have all different preferences with the way we hobby. If you don't like or don't want to use a wet palette, there's nothing wrong with that. Your hobby, your rules. Wet palettes are incredible, but unlike dry palettes, they do come with a lot of variability and issues that can happen that can be frustrating to deal with. All these problems can put you off from a great tool, so let's see if I can help solve them and refute some common misconceptions, as well as giving you tips that I find useful. First of all, you need to understand that a wet palette will behave differently depending on your local weather. If it's hot or cold, dry or wet, it will change how the palette behaves, and there isn't a single formulaic way of setting up a palette and maintaining it that will work for everyone. A super useful tool to have is a plastic bottle like this one, filled with water. If you live in an especially dry climate like I do, you can use this to refill your wet palette when it gets low on water, and it will, especially in long painting sessions. Just check your palette from time to time to see if it needs topping up. Wet palettes also require maintenance. They are a sponge submerged in a standing pool of water, and they will develop mold if not taken care of. 2 simple tips will get you a mold-free palette for life. 1. Clean your palette completely once a week. You can clean it more often, but I found that once a week is a good routine to develop and prevents nasty stuff from getting into your paints, brushes, or you. 2nd, add some kind of antimicrobial to your water. There are some commercial wet palette solutions you can buy and they work great. Some people like to use pure copper. You can also buy specially made ones for wet palettes. But I like to use good old bleach. Use a pipette and put 2 or 3 drops of bleach into the bottom of the container before introducing your sponge, and it will keep your palette spotlessly clean. I know you love your new pristine and clean sponge, but you need to face the sad truth, your sponge will get stained. This is normal, so don't worry. Some pigments in the paint can get through the paper and into the sponge, making it look dirty, but it will still be perfectly functional. Talking about that, yes, you can use metallic paints on a wet palette. No, metallic flakes won't contaminate it and get into other paints. It's a myth and needs to stop being propagated. Now that your palette is sanitized and clean, it's time to use it. If you are not interested in commercial solutions, this part might not be for you, but if you do, you need to understand there are 2 kinds of paper available right now. One is a transparent paper very similar to baking paper and works very much in the same way. And the other is this paper with 2 different sides. One side will be shiny and the other matte. Brands like Redgrass have some lettering on the matte side so you don't mix them up, but this one from Vallejo does not. It's very important you place the matte side down towards the sponge and use the shiny side to put paint on. Every paper of this kind can be washed and reused, even if the manufacturer doesn't say it. The amount of uses you will get out of this paper will vary, but about 3 uses is common. When you place a paper on the wet palette, this can happen. It wrinkles as it expands. You don't want this because that means the paper is not fully in contact with the sponge, causing problems and inconsistent paint hydration. It also looks awful and makes my eyeballs itch. Luckily, it's very easy to fix. Take a credit card or similar and just squeegee those wrinkles out. I like to start in the middle and press outwards. In no time you will have a pristine and perfectly flat palette paper. This works with both kinds of paper. Another very common problem I see is people getting worried about paint splitting in the palette. Paint looks great for a while, but after some time it starts looking weird. That happens when some of the different elements of the paint separates from the emulsion. Some brands of paint are worse than others in this regard, but if this happens to you, it's not a problem. you can just mix the paint up again with your brush to integrate all the elements. The paint has not gone bad, I promise you, and will be perfectly usable. And finally, the biggest misconception is that a wet palette will keep your paint fresh for ever, weeks, months, but you come the next day and the paint just doesn't feel the same. Or depending on your humidity, you return to an unusable pool of paint and water. The problem, you see, is that a wet palette is meant to keep your paint usable for your painting session. That's it. Yes, of course you can come the next day and you will be able to use the paint that's there, but the paint degrades over time on the wet palette, and that's why it just doesn't feel the same. You can use it, but you will be using paint that's not in an optimal state, and my recommendation is to put fresh paint and use that instead. And that's all my knowledge on palettes. I really hope you found this video helpful for your hobby journey. Again, if you want to see a video on how to thin down paint properly using a wet palette, feel free to watch my video on that topic in the Technique 101 playlist that I will link in the description. Thank you for watching this video, and don't forget that if you like my videos and want to help me make them, you can follow me on social media. You have the links to all my social media in the description below and in the pinned comment of this video. Share and like this video, but most importantly, there is Patreon and channel members. Patrons and members allow me to do all the cool videos that I want to make, and most importantly, they allow me to keep releasing videos for free here on YouTube. Perks include access to an amazing Discord community full of lovely people, access to many more Patreon exclusive videos, and also private one-on-one classes. Help me and join the list of the coolest persons in the planet, including Third Phase Studios, 9-Wall-1 Horses, Adam Foods, Adam Thaxton, Agon David, Al, Alan Hansen, Andy, Andrei Michenko, Angelos Alexou, Antoine Darvon, Arjet Lam, Avery Swanson, Bartosz Badensky, Big Beer 83, Biome, Bob Landrich, Bolsey, Bransky, Chase, Charles Armitage, Chris G, Chris Lewis, Chris Patmore, Christoph Moret, Christopher Weatherford, Kirino Murthael, Copper, Crystallios, Dan Mako, Daniel Pitch, Daniel Ramin, Darcy Farrar, Darren Leeds, Dave Griffiths, David Smith, Dr. Cathaber, Dr. V, Emily Queen of Sloth, Emaren Stewart, Felix Franke, Fergal, Philip Weka, Francis Harwood, Gareth Smith, Gary Hewitt, GeForce, Good Old Boys Podcast, Gresiek Merklinger, Heath Hathaway, Howard Hotville, Hyde Anderson, Ian, Jacob Morris, Jack Staines, Jan, Jason Lantrip, Jason Weber, Javi Mota, Jay Jones, Jimmy McL, John W., John Schutt, Jorge Pardo Serrano, Justin May, Just Rex, Carl Jones, Kevin Marshall, Kevin Sulas, Killaman 21, Lafarel, Lelapin Troll, Lena Lindemann, Lugubrious Camcom, Mailbox 2112, Manuel Martinez Lavi, Mark Jarvis, Matt Watson, Mateus Babiuk, Matt Wallis, Matthew Lang, Michael Bro, Michael Holtz, Mitchell Johnson, Nasser Luta, Natius Maximus, Nicholas David, One Gnarly Dude, Oscar Jonathan Thornberg, Pablo Cuesta, Painted by Tainted, Palas Cat, Phil Boinske, Rand Username, Richard St. Pierre, Robert Fuller, Rory Clean, Ryan Hawkins, Sheen, Sebastian A, Spacey Joe, Squarewave, Stavros, Stephen K, Stirling Coulter Hayward, Tyrek, Terry Denham, 3G, Tom King, Tristan Leonard, Venture, Jeven Donvrava, Seth27, Sois Jafet, Oscar Therain Bevia, and Stefan Zimmerman. And as for me, I will catch you in the next one. Bye!